So, is the tone on? It says it's working. I'm gonna bring it a little bit closer so I can make sure it's getting loud enough. The last one didn't seem quite loud enough. This hopefully is peeking out into the loud. That's peaking right there. So, this is a story that I wrote. It's a novel, my first novel. I've written a short story called Scary. I've written several short stories. I've got a book that's free. It's a book of poems, short stories, and artwork that I've done over the years, compiled together into a book. I've got to work it out because right now the file size is fucking huge, man. It's fucking, there you are. The file size is fucking, I keep looking up there because that's the monitors up there. So the file size is huge. And the reason why is I scanned in the pictures that I used for the borders. I hand drew the borders, and I scanned it in the computer, but I forgot to bring the scale down. If anything, I probably took it to like bigger, because I'm used to making things like poster size for my band, so that way when it shrinks down, and there's no, or if any, yeah, I mean, there's no reason to blow it up because it's like 4,000 pixel by 4,000 pixels. It's actually huge, and in HD. So when it shrinks down, it doesn't lose any quality, and when people want to look at it big, when people want to stretch it, zoom in, you really don't lose any quality. If you want to make it on your 65-inch TV as your background, desktop background, almost in 4K, you won't lose any graphics. I'm kind of drifting here, but I mean, I've been stoned like all day. Friday is a trigger day for me, so I get really stoned to kind of keep my mind off of it. I mean, it's in the name, Friday. So, get fucked up. You ain't got no job. You ain't got shit to do. We're gonna get you high today. So, I'm thinking about going ahead and picking up where we left off on the robber and the thief. I've always told people, like, I'm trying to get people to listen to my book, and I always say, like, and I get it's kind of a slow burn getting to Argus, but I feel like once it gets to Argus is where it begins the slide. You know what I mean? It's like I have to back and tell. I have to tell why these guys are, like I said, why they're shitheads. Why no one whooped their ass? Why no parent got in charge? Whooped them and took the made them discipline more instead of like who they became. I had to explain it, and so it had to start when he was younger, and it kind of goes through some stuff, but it goes through. I think it goes through it pretty quickly and kind of sets the mood of who the two main characters are. And the two main characters are based off of myself. And growing up, I had a really good friend, Otis Ball Clark. He's passed. There's no. We were really, really close friends. We really did just apart because of his drug addiction. We really did do crazy stuff. I mean, we did nuts stuff. We were crazy, man. But we'd come over to his house pretty much daily and smoke pot and watch either Willy Wonka or Up in Smoke. So we can quote both. We could quote both those pretty well. And so we'd be in the in the middle of a store, a restaurant. It didn't really matter to us. We'd just be sitting there and just like look at the other one and start smiling like, what? We're not gonna have a family brawl! And everybody in the store just kind of turns and looks like, what in the fuck? And the other one's just like cracking up like, oh shit. And they start singing, springtime, the only pretty ring time, birds sing ring-a-ding. The other one comes in, a-ding, sweet love, hey love. On different aisles. Yeah, man. Yeah. Like I said, we would look around, the people that were looking at us like, what the fuck is your problem? We're like, it's not our fault, you're fucking dead, man. It's not our fault, you're dead. But he was my bro. He was my brother. He was my actual brother. And that's kind of what made me realize that, like, I wanted to, I kind of grew up in a family that kind of love was known and not so much shown, And I just kind of got older, and I didn't want to be that way anymore. And I was hanging out with Opie. We were riding in the back of a truck on the way home from a party or something like that. And I'm like, man, I love this dude, man. He's fucking awesome. But it's like you can't get it up, especially as a dude, to get up to him. I said, fuck it, I don't care. I was like, I love you, man. And he's just like, I love you too, bro. I was like, cool. He didn't like. What are you trying to say, man? I'm not trying to say nothing, dude. You know what I mean? Cause like at the end of the night, he's like the friend that like we would split weed. If he had some weed and I didn't, he'd give me some weed, and I'd have cigarettes and he didn't. So I'd like whatever cigarettes I had, we'd divvy up. Or if I had both, he'd get some, and if he, vice versa. We just make sure everything was worked out. There are some things in there that are based off of reality. The part where they're smoking, and he rejects it for the first time he's ever seen it, and he starts cracking up. He puts a lot. That's what really happened. Some of the stuff in there, like even my ex was like, that really no, that never really happened. Never really kissed him. It's a story. You make some exaggerations, and these guys are supposed to be getting fucked up and high as shit. And so yeah, they're getting in trouble with some shit, and basically it's to their advantageousness that for this occasion, because one of them's fucked up and hit on a taken woman, and then the guy turns around to kick the shit out of him, and so they have to play up like, what are you doing over here? You know what I mean? You guys, no, we have to do it or they're gonna beat our ass, man. And you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I love you too. Yeah, we gotta do this. We gotta do this or we're gonna get killed. So I can't fight this guy. This guy's fucking. These guys are just turning like 18, and they're going from this little podunk little town of Morrington to this enormous, enormous town of Argus. Morrington is like a town of 100, 200. Argus is a town of a couple, like dozen million. It's a city that's like, it crosses, they have, before the before the second era, they had just rivers, like there's these big rivers that are going through about the size of the Congo, the Nile, those big kind of rivers. After the events of the second, that ended the first era and started the second era, those rivers doubled in width, and they just spread out. Some of the continents were moved out, like completely out of place and stuff. The inland sea really opened up. Just a lot of stuff happened, and so now the thing is now, instead of being 30 miles wide, is now 60 miles wide, and Argus crosses it because at the end there's these three rivers that they call it the Whimpering Maw. You'll see it on the screen when they eventually get to Argus, but it crosses those. I wish I could zoom in and show you what I see, because I talk about it all the time, but I think pay attention to the dot that is Morrington, and then pay attention to the A in Argus. And with that, I'm going to shut the fuck up, and we're going to go ahead and watch some more of the show.
Because you can't respect others if you don't respect yourself, he said, snarling and looking me up and down. The light still his friend behind his cloak's hood, hiding his face besides trace glances of details, but never enough to pull a full image together. So you birthed me? You have any say about who and what I am? You know me because you know my name? I roared, trying to hide my fear, foolishly drawing the attention of a nearby guardsman who immediately began heading our way. The shadow man leaned in. You're clever, you're broken, the dark is your ally. There's not a pocket you haven't picked and no citizen you haven't driven to blind hatred in some form or another. He spoke in hurried and whispered words. But if you want in there, you have a long journey ahead of you. With that, he threw a small, tightly rolled scroll in my lap. What's happening here? Grunted the guardian. We shared a disdainful look at this hired thug's interference. Nothing, we said in near unison. The shadow man turned and walked back inside, and the guard just watched me until I gathered myself, my things, which consisted of a back sack full of herbals and different ways to ingest them, and headed back to Meredith. My blood boiling for another drink of milk, my lungs took the brunt of large doses of Kel, and my eye liquid dissolved 2 doses of Pesset I had already prepared. I say prepared. I didn't ready it myself. I had purchased some liquid Pesset ready to use. When I eventually got home, I sat in my father's smoking chair preparing everything and waited for the medicine I took earlier to start to work. While that should be here in another 20 minutes, I prepped more, which takes around 5 minutes. So I smoked more and waited for the effects. As soon as I finished prepping it, I took more Pesset while waiting for the latest Kel to start its kick. It usually takes 15, 20 minutes total. I've often thought of adding to my regimen and try to make a better crutch, but I can survive on this. I can maintain. I won't be selling my family home. I'm not that far gone, nor will I allow myself to be. Alton and I decided long ago to learn these spaces, to make these secrets ours. The temptation is more than a little strong to take some of the other stronger, blood-letting intoxicants floating around the shadowiest places of town. But we agree that if we cannot control them, we do not do them. Believe me, it's easier to have a motto than to follow through with it. So far, so good, I guess. Only some dismount bruising. Finally able to think straight again, I pulled the scroll from my pocket and unrolled it, clearing some of my paraphernalia to make room. The paper was fairly old and had the drawing of a map that led to the Thieves' Guild in Argus, with a name at the bottom, Wrathclaw. Alton appeared suddenly. "What's that?" he said, eating an apple with one hand, pipe in the other. I showed him. "You're looking for a job?" he laughed. I just stared back, straight-faced. "Oh, then I'm with you, brother. When do we leave?" "Tomorrow." He nodded, drew hard on his pipe, passed it to me, exhaled, and exited through a thick cloud of smoky gray. As the sun rose, the milk sickness wasn't even close to trying to stop up. It would be at least 4 more days before we were detoxed fully. We should be close to Argus by then. We prepared our horses and began heading towards the front gate of Meredith, only to be greeted by a familiar face. There on the other side was one of Father's former servants. His face stared sheepishly down as if in reverence, which nearly angered me to rage, as his name danced just on the edge of my recollection. He may have been out there for days for all I knew or cared. "You are free. We owe each other nothing. Why are you here?" I barked as Alton chuckled, pulling on his pipe and again passing it to me. "Sire, I am no sire." "As you wish, sir. I have nowhere else to go. My daughters and I lost their mother to kobolds. She was gathering fruit. They came out." "And why are you here?" I said, inhaling hard and passing it back. But Alton shook his head no to the offer, which I don't know if I had ever seen him do before or since. I had to control my laughter as I thought it was a joke at first, but the fire in his eyes when I tried a second time to pass it back, that nearly burst me into tears, but now was not the time for laughter. "We want to indebт ourselves to you and yours," he all but begged. As I was about to tell him to piss off, clarity struck me. "Today is your luckiest of days. Colther?" I said, riding slightly past him as he nodded that this was indeed his name, and his 2 young teenage daughters that he tried to shield behind himself.
Alright, so I'm going to check to make sure the audio's coming in the microphone. We can go to advanced properties. Let's monitor the toner. Check 1. Yeah, there's a latency, so I'm not going to listen to that. That makes me fucking talk slow and stuff. Alright, so so far, as you've seen, they've run into some shady characters in Morrington, and led him on the path to head towards Argus, which he's He's always hated kind of Mornington. Um, there's little subtle hints, like if you watch the way the map goes, if you actually look at the dot that is, you'll hear how he explains. He's kind of an asshole, and you'll see why. But there's a reason why. It's because when he was younger, you'll see the route that he when it's going to show like the route away, the route coming back as it's heading back down. That's the route he came when he moved down when he was like 7 years old. So by 7 years old, he'd already seen that much shit. And the town they're from, he doesn't honestly remember what town it was. It was somewhere in that general area, and they definitely took the inland sea to the almost mall, and then down to Morganton when his dad inherited his grandfather's farm. There's a lot of like little subtle shit in there that I put in there, that especially if you follow the map. It's his own hand drawn map, and so that's why the locations on there talks about how there's hundreds of towns like Morganton. The reason I didn't mark them all is because I only marked the ones where he's been. The narrator. I only wanted to mark where he's been, and got a little blue light. Mazzy star. Um, hello. Hello. All right, so want to finish some more? I mean, is there anything else I could talk about? Let's see, let's cover about that. Kind of brushed a little on June. I don't know how much more we have left to go, but there's a little bit of time to go before we hit August. There's a bit of story, but they're at least on their way. So let's continue the journey, shall we? If you guys don't mind. Well, I guess if you do mind, you can log out. I'm continuing the journey. I love this story, so I don't mind taking the whole thing with you guys and discussing it. I was thinking about doing like a side thing and breaking it down as like as I go through the whole thing, and like just let it play and break down. But it'd be better if people were along with it for the ride. But this would be kind of like editor notes. You know what I mean? Kind of like a director's commentary. I don't know. I'm stupid.
I tossed him the keys to Meredith. You have full access to the entire property, except the main house. If you have the slightest regard for my father, and as many times as you've mentioned him to me, you should, do not enter my father's house. Do you understand? He said nothing but nodded his head gleefully. You can farm the land, either for your family or for business. You can hire farmhands, but I want you to take care of this farm as if it were your own. And then I leaned in. But make no mistake, it is not your home. It is my home, and you can live here. If it is in as good of shape as I am leaving it now, there will be a great reward for you when I return. And what will that be, my lord? When I'm done. With that, we rode off not to look upon Morrington for another 4 winters. Morrington was a nothing. It was based on a large pond fed by a stream that bent to the river, that opened to the almost maw, that became the inland sea. Carriages of visitors arrived maybe every few months. Supplies, real supplies, arrived once every month or so. The carriage passengers rarely, if ever, staying beyond whatever business that brought them. I would blame them, but what was there to do? Become Alton and I's next victim? Be chastised to insanity by the impossible elderlings, each generation learning the tricks of the following one, coming down harder, clamping down more and more every year, but never giving the youth anything to do, and yet they want to be mad when we break the rules for fun. Now, do you see how worried you are about the names of the tributaries from the Morrington to the inland sea? That's how worried anyone on Unia could be about Morrington, or the people who reside there. There are hundreds of these types of towns. If you aren't from there, you probably have never heard of it. That's how small Alton and I were at my adulting, as we were entering into Argus for the first time. the wintering of 687 of the Second Era. But because of Argus's location near the warm waters of the bygone sea and Faslin's ocean, the winters were so mild, no worse than fall in Morrington. Argus was a city, a real city. As you approach it west to east, the bygone sea on your right, hills rising before you slowly to 3 horses high, and the road veering north and then northwest in a wide, gentle, and ever-improving cobblestone arc to the main gate. At sunset, Argus's walls blocked the sun, allowing the many farms and their crops to perfectly rest in the shadows after serving life to the town from sun up 7 days a week. So rest, benevolent love. We were arriving as the sun started to set on the journey's 7th day. Fully clean of our last trip to oblivion, we joined the long line of other visitors trying to get in before dark. A cross between different techniques of wooden and stone, the walls hinted at the massive diversity of life held within them, literally carved into the fortifications that give Argus its nearly impenetrable protection. Walking its streets, Argus has no style besides itself. A Venturian cafe next to a Dremna hotel that seamlessly blends into a Northic lord's house. The stone that made the walkways polished shiny from foot traffic. The stones just as diverse without division. For once, I felt that I could proudly drop my hood and show my mother's elven ears poking from underneath my sun-bleached brown hair that draped past my chin and landed gently on my chest. Being a half-elf, I felt exactly like this city. Mingled and seamless, not disharmony, but underneath a calm exterior, the readiness to explode, sometimes not even knowing why or for ignorant reasons. I felt like I understood Argus almost immediately. Alvin was the only person I met who truly didn't care about my half-blood. We were just brothers. People in Morrington thought we weren't fraternal, but a couple, which we had endless fun at the residents' expense. Especially if we'd been drinking heavily or the pesset was exceptionally finely ground, or at least pre-diluted. Oh, pre-diluted pesset. It was a garish rarity of a dream in Morrington because for dilution, one has to be like Juna, because if you get the dilution tincture wrong, your eyes will burn for hours. Too little pesset and you just waste it. Too much and you go insane for hours, if you're lucky. That's when the guards like to beat on you, since you won't even be around for the thrashing. You can't feel it until the next day, so they try to take you down for dangerous behavior, even though you're so insane that your body can literally only stand there as your mind creates horrible dream after horrible dream. You cannot move and are almost drooling, but you are the threat. Then why are my ribs nearly broken? You wake up in a shallow pool of water about to your cheek, in the guard's dank basement dungeon, aching everywhere with a healing tincture next to you, a note tied on it reading, "Thanks for the laugh, pesshead." By the time you finish the bottle, it barely hurts, and they didn't take your intoxicants, only confiscated your belongings. Then you basically have to beg to be released and for your items back. And the only one hurt in all of this is the pest head. Thank creation for guards. How would we get along without them? It really does look like mare's milk. Make me laughed.
So, we've made it to Argus. I feel like going for just a little bit longer to get full on, you know what I mean? Because I haven't actually gotten in. I think once I get inside the Thieves Guild and stuff is when it starts to really begin to take hold. And I mean, if anybody wants to bail out now, like, oh, I've heard enough, then no one, if anyone's even watching this at all, um, I appreciate anybody giving this a chance at all. If you don't mind, I would love to hear like what you didn't like about it, just as much as I would like to hear what you did like about the story. I would like to be an author, but I need to, have an audience that's going to go and tell me like what's wrong with my shit to let me know. And again, you won't know what's wrong with this one until you get to the end. That's one thing I ask of a lot of people is that like whether working on music or whatever, let me show you the idea, and then wait till I get to the end. Once I get to the end and you get the point of where I'm going, then hit me with everything. But you at least understand everywhere I'm coming from. Don't let me hit like the first note and go no. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the first note doesn't sound right. Like nah, that's not what I want to work at. You know what I mean? You just have a feeling. Sometimes you want to work in a lower, heavier sound. It just we're gonna drop there later. We gotta start higher so that we can when it comes down, it's gonna go and it's gonna sound way lower because we've got everybody tuned up to this high. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Hang in there with me. Trust me. Won't steer you wrong. Let's watch it. Let's listen to a little bit more of the Robber and the Thief.
Speaking of, you can turn a manly man bright red with rage by calling your best friend sugar bread. Not my fault they're so repressed. Anyway, as I said, Augustus' great gates stayed open sun up to sundown. Guards sat in every vulnerable place, backed by a garrison of troops. Argus's exceptional style came from the multiple assaults over the centuries, and even eras. Argus is so old that it predates the maws and the inland sea. She brandishes her rules plainly written in all Unaic tongues, beautifully carved into a large wooden message board lit nightly by an absolutely stunning older lady. I still have no idea or connection to drive her for this nightly quest. Changing the candle in the lantern, making sure the mirror reflects the light to its fullest. Also, people like Alton and I can read. No stealing, no fighting, no open magic in non-designated areas, no ethereal powers. We have them too, and some symbols I couldn't make out. The guards are the law by decree of all that live in Argus. Plain and simple. I'm liking it already, said Alton as he drove his heels into his horse, inching closer to the entrance. I followed closely, not to lose my spot, as the night crept closer. This near to nightfall, the guards were extremely cautious, we would find. They stabled our horses and gave us rations. What madness was this? A trick? No, just Argus taking care of even its strangers. I should probably explain. Morrington was all about earning everything. From your food to your life, none of which you ever asked for, which only helps with the suffering. To them, the meaning of life was to wait for another one that was coming. Obviously not what Argans believe, and probably why Morrington exists. It was probably settled by people leaving Argus and its ways. Argus is without doubt the largest human settlement on Unia. Its breadth crossed the whimpering maws. Called this because when trying to name them, supposedly an actual fight broke out about whether or not the maws at the end of the tame maw were big enough to be called that, or were they just wide rivers? Giant river, tiny maws, who cares? But why whimpering? This is where people differ. Some say that it's a group of tiny maws, thus whimpering and sad that they are parting the tamed maw, like 3 bony fingers from the arm and hand that is the tamed maw. Others believe that, depending on what you think a river versus a maw is, the fight broke out and the river arguer beat the maw, possibly physically, and to embarrass him, he gave in to calling them maws, but they were a sniveling, broken, and beaten 3. Last opinion, the maw arguer kept whining until he got his way, so again, they wanted to embarrass. Now, what do I believe? I believe Argus straddles a great amount of water that leads to the inland sea. Being that close to the shore, and the sheer buying power of Argus, as it had been built from the foundation of a gold mining town, created the ability for captains to not have to brave any farther. Over the centuries, it has made Argus very wealthy, and fighting interrupts commerce for all the parties. The 5 guilds are represented and have a voice at the table of decisions. That's what I think. What I know is that guard who handed me the rations, probably about 2 days' worth, very generous, had finally returned my hunting bow and family sword. It had no name yet, and I still packed it, although finally crafted for a family heirloom of a great general to great general, and having passed from my father's fathers 3 passes hence, it has never seen battle. A sword gains its name from a war or great deed, from whomever the winner is, and retrieves the blade. But for now, at least, such a weapon was still in my family, and presently in my possession, though I had little idea of how to wield it when we arrived, nor, in fact, had I ever even unsheathed it. The guard saw the blade before me, and looked at me as if to say, "How could you afford this?" But transition of ownership happens quickly in this world, and looks are almost always deceiving in Argus. He just resheathed it and handed it to me. I saw his desire to take it back when I reached for the handle instead of the sheath. I had no idea how bad that was, but quickly brought my other hand up to cradle it the way he was trying to hand it to me. He just looked at me angrily, wondering why someone as unskilled as me could end up with such an amazing weapon. Father only allowed me to admire the finely crafted leather handle from the safety of its mount on the wall, but told me that it's made of earthen wood, the dark and shiny black peeking out from underneath certain straps that time and a little bit of curiosity had loosened. It was supposedly crafted deep in the underwoods by Shinamazin's finest smith, and sold at great fortune to the ancestor we now owed our family home to. The beautiful sheath without being overly proud of itself so as not to give away the true weapon beneath. The Thieves' Guild is off to the left. Just follow the dock to the fishing permitted below sign. The guard broke my reminiscing. Unintentionally, I let out a howl, to which several of the guards just gave me a look of disappointment. I didn't think we looked that obvious, but I guess the only other thing we could have possibly been would be nighttime hunters or trackers, which we clearly didn't have the age or experience for. We immediately headed to the nearest clothing store. I barely had any money, which was never a problem for Alton, the most fleet hands I've ever watched the blur of. Now we no longer looked like shadow hunters, but we didn't ditch the clothes either. The whole reason we had what we had was to blend into the night. We combined what we would wear to thieve under a more normal look. Leather armor, chest plate, bracers, and boots without shit all over them. Cheap, efficient. We honestly blended in well almost immediately, mainly because of the freedom to be whatever you are in Argus. But who wants their first impression to be, "Hello, I don't understand how to disguise the fact that I might burgle you. Won't you take us into your confidence?" Much less a guild. Argus was already teaching both of us quickly. No more easy targets or women impressed by attention. It almost got me killed trying. Alton had to really play up my lover to save my skin. Hey, it wasn't the first time I kissed him. It really looks like mare's milk. Speaking of, the city was awash in new treats to try. But that isn't what we came for. Mostly because we didn't know who we could trust. At best, we'd lose the money. At worst, something similar to bull's milk. Impinal, it's pure to pale white. Even the slightest gray, stay away. They didn't have milk in Argus, but they knew the Impinal and its effects well. Rumor is there's a sewer tunnel offshoot where vast amounts are grown. Turns out the ground-up spores can be used for other alchemical potions. Who knew? The good news is that you have a much higher chance of pure Impinal caps since the spores can be used for something. I'm pretty sure it's a poison, but you'd have to talk to an alchemist. Some poisonous things can be brewed or distilled in a way that renders a plethora of beneficial effects. For now, we stuck to the supply we brought, which was running low for our tastes. So we needed to meet people immediately. It may sound ridiculous to say that you're looking for trustworthy people at the Thieves Guild, but that's why we were here. Just as the guard said, we followed the near dock. Might as well address it now. Far dock is far more popular and well maintained of the two. It is the tourist version of Argus. We try our absolute best to avoid these fake parts of the world. This was our first look at it, and eventually we would only visit for a quick pocket pick. Some call that district Trelia, but I don't know or care why. On our few times there, I have seen Trelia Inn or Trelia whatever. It's always some overpriced garbage. Things I would gladly burgle because the size, the price, but I'd never want to own. Near Dock looks more like it's been here for most of Argus's history, but it feels more like home to me. Althan has never liked people, so I can't imagine him enjoying this half as much as me. I don't particularly care for people, but with this many people, you can truly disappear and become anonymous, which is something I have sorely lacked these last 18 years of my life. No one cares what I'm doing or look like. They have their own lives to fuck up.
So, we are officially in Argus, and things are about to get interesting. I'm going to go ahead and if you don't want to check it out anymore, again, no one's hostage or anything like that. By all means, stick around or head out or whatever. If anyone's even watching, I don't even know if I'm doing. I had a chat, wouldn't come up, so I can't see anything. Sorry. Yeah, it's more of something like, again, if in the future, if someone wants to know about my book, I'll have a thing that's. That'd be weird, wouldn't it? I'm sitting there explaining to the person. So right now you're watching my book, because I just said you can go online and check out my book. Apparently we had a meeting about my book. I already filmed this before I had the meeting. So, who's crazy now? Alright, I'm going to go ahead and play it just a little bit more, because I really like the part where they get to the Thieves Guild.
As we closed in on the sign we were told of, we noticed the Night Boys. That's what we called them. They're basically what we looked like when we arrived, only much younger. Suddenly, a face was in front of us. Here, points the wiry man at the Thieves Guild. Follow me. And his trail was faintly seen parting the small crowd on the pavement in front of a fairly average-looking building. It didn't resemble a house, nor did it resemble a lord's manor. The balcony out front offered more hospitality and humanity than many of the other buildings in this district. But as I said, and as we soon found out, oh, how deceiving a look is. Upon entering, one of the thieving community could instantly realize that this guild building was the teacher. Everything is placed everywhere on purpose and for the reason of teaching these arts to prospective students. There were 4 traps just to get far enough inside to even see anyone else. I already felt how much smoother my movement would be by the end of the month. The incongruity of the room immediately screamed, don't expect this area to look like this always. Above our heads, in fairly large stained glass and lit by expertly placed candles around the building, a sign read, this guild is under the control of both. Disobedience will not be tolerated, period. That's when the silence disappeared. Yes, here, the hooded face was back. It was impossible to tell if it was old, bald, maybe albino, maybe some mix of races I hadn't yet encountered. Aside from curiosity, I didn't care, so I let the question fall away. Who are they? I asked. They? He echoed in my own voice, clearly a master of mimicry. Both. Who are they? No. He laughed. Not both. Brothers of the Hood. You were very new, aren't you? First time in a real city? Alf and I both just nodded, knowing how much we had to learn and how little time we had to learn it if we wanted to survive in our new environment. Come, train. I'll explain as much as I can. I couldn't place his accent, but at the time, I'd only really been to Morganton and dealt with a few Norfolk folk who had either made their way to Morganton by route of some quest or some form of accident. Their accent tickles the ear almost the way dwarvish tongue does, at least from the impressions I've heard done in the taverns and bars. Anyone who's met a dwarf does almost the exact same impression, so until I meet one for myself, I'll have to assume they are accurate. Is it possible to sleep first? We just arrived and have been traveling for nearly a week, maybe more. We're not used to any of this. I pleaded as exhaustion was setting in, and I just wanted a bed. The sickness was done with us, but the lingering tired from days on end staying awake was taking its usual and heavy toll. Oh yes, absolutely. There's an inn over by Fardock called Peltheus. Tell them Relith sent you. You'll get a great discount, but be sure to let them tell you how much first. Excellent. Thank you so much. We'll rest up and be back here before sunup. Why? Relith asked, confused. You know, to start training, I said, one foot heading toward the door already. Oh no. If you leave now, don't ever show your face around here again. We swiftly became aware of the dozens of eyes watching us from every possible angle, and the hushed quiet now blanketing the room. Time stretched on for far too long and uncomfortably. I would have done almost anything to end it. Then let's get started, Althin chimed in. We both exhaustedly dropped our back satchels on the ornately tiled floor where they were snatched up and whisked away almost immediately. I thought stealing was illegal in Argus, I yelled defiantly at what were now nothing more than shadows. We've stolen nothing from you. Your packs are here. How well you learn is how fast you retrieve them. If you have perishables in there, I suggest that you learn faster. And with that, Relith was swiftly gone.
So yeah, that's I'm not sure what chapter that ends out on. I only have it chapterized in on YouTube on the playlist. Well, the videos on the YouTube playlist for Robin the Thief from Cheap Gear Guy. But it's got like every like 10, 15 minutes or so, it's got like a break, so you can take a break and go do other things and come back and whatever. But the actual audiobook doesn't have any breaks in it. You just have to pause. It's got 5 parts, and I just go through them all through the 5 parts. Um, Man, it was just a really fun adventure because if you guys don't mind, let me see if I can load. I want to show you something real quick. Hell, I can probably do it right here. That'll be weird, but so eventually, if anyone ever wants to get into it, I've got other ones to go through. Um, but I did some really cool stuff with the I think the pretty cool stuff with the vocals. No, don't restart loop and playback. Okay.
Part 3.
And
After I was let out, free, back into my home city, I decided to flop
shit.
wherever I could.
I forgot I gotta set the what's it called? There you are. The output. It's always something, isn't it? Or was it playing? I don't know. It might have been playing for you guys. It wasn't playing for me. I couldn't hear it, so I hope it was. If it is, I apologize. Let's try that
Part
again.
3. After I was let out, free, back into my homes. When the 2 hirelings had cleared off to ready themselves for this months-long journey, the hires talked in hushed tones about their plans, and I focused on every word. I just need a thief! There was no poker face, which was a delight to watch. Trying to pretend he was or a meat. I'll buy you one. You have half-elf, squeaked the mage, a mere skin and bones of a being. I couldn't tell his age through the gaunt of his face. He seemed disgusted by the thought of me, but tried his best to hold his tongue. Nothing I haven't seen or worked for before. Business is business as long as it pays, and if I rob him blind, I will feel nothing when he wakes, naked and unsure of how he ended up in that tree. No tearing shit. What are we after? I grumbled.
Do not say.
An almost hiss came from the scraggly little mage thing, but the higher raised his hand dismissively, confident he could sell me on the trip. There's an artifact my friend here needs. For what isn't any worry of yours. You can name your price, he said with a smile. Desperation, I groaned. You don't know me aside from the simplest trick of not being seen, and you're offering whatever I ask? You're obviously talented, so I'm sure you're worth your fee, he nervously replied. But you can't even afford drinks, I said, setting down my glass and simultaneously and imperceptibly moving my hand to my knife handle. Help me to understand. I began feeling like a serpent's tongue tickled my gums and teeth. Okay, let me explain, he said, now verging on terrified. I just raised a hand and one finger. It worked. Silence fell. Then I began to break down what I can deduce. You don't have the money now. You were hoping to sign us to contracts that will pay out large enough if the trip works out like you plan. While this, I said, grabbing the mage and literally pulling him off the seat, his squeaking and sniveling heard over the unaware merriment and glasses clinking all around, will finish the job you're hiding, the real reason you're here. Since you retire, the leader laughed nervously, motioning me to release the mage, and I did. We have a map, he began to say. A shiver ran up my spine. Let me see it, I immediately interrupted, hoping to not see what I thought I would. You're insane, he snickered. I just continued staring with hand extended. Give it or I take it, I said, remembering her overconfidence and willingness to walk at the first sniff of something being wrong. She seemed less rude now. Still don't know why that is. The higher handed it over only beneath the table, and I slowly unrolled it on my lap. It wasn't the map I expected. This was made not of parchment, but of soft cloth, woven. This took time. It was definitely genuine and old. Carefully re-rolled it, tied the ribbon back around it, and tossed it back to him, unconcerned with their side plan. Here's how it's going to work. You are the hire. I will behave as such and not shame you in front of your other hirelings. You can't pay my fee now, but I will contract myself to you anyways.
And how much is your fee?
Hissed the mage, who was unnerving me more every second. Half. Not of whatever you send me in the fighter after, but whatever you have going with this, I said, right arm tortuously bent up and pointing directly in its face. When we're done, we ditch the fighter. I'll think of something if she doesn't excuse herself. Hey, let's all go to Feltree and drink. Oh, you're going back to Argus? That's a shame. Thanks for the help. And you split everything remaining in half with me. I laid out my demands, knowing my worth. Why would I? He began. Because I will find you twice as much as you wildly speculated this trip to be worth. The void now in my throat when I didn't mean it to be. I'll be ready to go when your fighter and mage are. Fire the fake mage, or I tell them everything.
Okay, sorry about that. I forgot that I can't monitor the headphones. I couldn't hear what that was. If that sounded bad, I apologize about that. Hope it didn't sound too bad. I'll just watch them play back. I'm kind of pissed at myself now. I should have just, because it sounded pretty cool, I think. But I don't do a whole lot of that. I don't do it. I mean, I don't abuse it. It really doesn't even show up for the first time until part 2. And then part 3 probably has the most like kind of effects like that. Part 4 has well, no, it has a good bit. Um, but again, it's tasteful. I think it's tastefully done. I didn't abuse it. I think it sounds really cool. Um, but that's why I didn't want to use it too much. So that it would always have the same kind of push that it always has. Um, I don't know. It's just especially with headphones on. If you listen to it with headphones on, it's intense because it's just like that's how I mixed it when I created the sound effect of the void tongue is what I call it in the book. Um, it's like in the headphones, it's way like big, huge. You can hear like the regular voice like right here, and then like the other one is it's really crazy. So, however cool it sounded over there, if you're not listening to it through headphones, you're missing out. Even cheap earbuds. But yeah, dude, I got some earbuds. They're like $22, $23 at fucking um, Walmart. Here, these guys right here, and they're like 23 bucks. And I'm not trying to sell, but I mean, if you don't have any, these fucker, and they have other ones in the same price range. So they have a charging case. Okay, as you can see, I just charged it the other day, so it's at 100. But it'll tell you that, right? Now, the earbuds will last for about 6 hours. It's nuts. And then you put it in. When you do that from 100, it'll drain it down to about 60%. So you can get another 6 hours. And it charges fast. And then so you're ready to go again. But I have another shitty crap of pair of, well, not crappy, but they just don't last very long, about an hour. But if I can switch over to those and use those while these charge up. And then I take those out, put these back in. The cool thing is my bus app that I have has like it tells you like when the you're now approaching what's stop. It'll interrupt your music and tell you what stops you're getting at. So if you're just kind of in your own zone, just doing your shit on the bus, they'll tell you where you're at as you're going. Or you can turn it off if it gets annoying. But I think it's kind of cool because sometimes, like I said, I just get in my own little zone. If I'm riding, if I'm whatever, if I'm on my tablet, because it has free Wi-Fi on the bus, man. That's dope, dude. It's really sick. $20. No. Well, I have like the low income thing, so no $20 is no gas, no car note, no insurance, no income tax, no registration. $20, and I can get anywhere inside of Grand Traverse. And like I said, for an Uber ride type, bus ride, they'll come pick me up at my house and take me to the exact location I want to go. $3. Normally $6, but it's $3, and then $3 to get back. I called them and say, hey, I need a ride. Actually, there's an app on my thing. You just order it there. I don't know why I'm talking about that. I guess 'cause I'm pretty stoned. Oh, I've just been living this the thing of haven't I? Yeah, that's why I'm stoned. So, yeah, man. Sure, I haven't been looking at this camera, at the screen or anything like that. I've just been fucking just zoned out. Um, that's the trip from, if you watch the other part, the other one's part 1. I guess you'd say the first 20 minutes, and then after that I pick up on this one here, and it goes through there. Um, if it seems like it's something that you're interested in, by all means, go check it out. It's free. The video is, like I said, on YouTube. The whole, all five parts. If you don't feel like waiting, or like listening to all of it, like all 10 hours, if you listen to parts 1 and 5, it's basically the cliff notes of the book. It'll hit all the thing. If anyone's gonna write cliff notes on my fucking book, it's gonna be fucking me. Fuck you. You're not gonna make. You're not gonna make money. I'm sorry. Not. I mean, what? How else are you gonna make cliff notes on my book when I've already made basically cliff notes? It's it's a painting that's like got 5 parts, and it folds together. And if you fold together as to 1 and 5, you can see the majority of the painting. I keep talking just like that's the camera. It looks like you can see the majority of the painting, but then like when you fucking open up 2, 3, and 4, it's like, oh shit, there's a whole nother fucking, there's a pretty cool adventure in there, but it's not, none of it's necessary to get the story of Robin Thief 1 and 5. You're done. Only problem would be like if they start asking questions about, you did this. Yeah, I did because Sean said to do it, and I did. I did say to do. I said to do it. Do it, man. If you feel like you want to read the rest to find out, like there might be one person that you don't know who the hell he is, but you'd have to read the rest or listen to the rest to find out if it's worth it to find out who that guy is. Other than that, you really don't. There's nothing like in there that's like you need any kind of really reference um, too much for. So, and of course the heater kicks on. Hopefully it's not too loud. Let me see him talking. It's raised the floor a lot. Tell you what, since it did, and it's at 56 minutes, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel this and call this good. If anybody's tuned in, thank you for tuning in. Anyone who watches this after it's been up, thank you for watching. Again, The Robber and the Thief, it's on YouTube, all 5 parts, a total of 10 hours. It gets, I think it just keeps getting better from there. I really do. And that's not BS. I think that's where it starts. I think that was like we've been 30, 40 minutes, and I think it gets really good after that. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to stop there, because it starts getting interesting right around that part. It really gets and so like I said, that way I kind of helped walk you through the beginning of the intro. Explain a little bit why it is a slow start, but it kind of needs it. You'll see. It kind of needs it. But yeah, I hope you'll take the adventure, and if you like it, go buy Unia on Facebook and drop a like, or whatever you feel like. If you want to tell people about it and share it, I don't care. It's a free book. It really is. It's free. It's my first novel I've ever written. My ex-fiance edited it, and then I came behind and edited it per her corrections of my stuff, and to make it sound more like me, and in the process put a bunch more errors back in. So it needs to be edited like one last time, I believe, to really get all the kinks out and shit. You probably hear me when I'm talking. You'll hear me like kind of stumble on what's actually there. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, shit. You know what I mean? But I do pull it off, but it does sound kind of weird sometimes, the pronunciation of stuff. But it's free. And the audiobook's free, and the video's free. All of it's free. So, I mean, if I was getting paid, sure, I'll back up and do it. But, I mean, it's got a little kind of a stupid charm that it's not perfect. Kind of like that. It kind of gave me the idea that I wanted basically the Argus Library Edition, which would be like a hardback. It has that Robber and the Thief, like the cover that you saw on there. It looks like that, but it's a hardback. It has no actual like paper cover, like dust cover. That's the Argus Library Edition. The paperback edition, I wanted to look like. Fuck. Am I being put on hold for a second? Dude, I love my mom, man. This is part of like the costume that goes from my Robber and the Thief. Because of his backpack, not the one that he just lost, but the one he gets, becomes like a big part of the story, and who he is and everything. And this is what I envisioned it looking like, exactly what I envisioned it look like. And someone was selling it on Amazon, and it's not a costume, although it's like $38. It is durable as fuck. It is wonderful. I had a not Greenpeace, Sierra Club backpack, and within like a week of like me carrying it on the bus, it just like snapped. This thing is like so strong and durable and ready to just go. It's got pockets for everything, man. One of it's funny because like the oh, you can't even see that, can you now? One of the things it's got these little leather straps right here that come on there, but one of them fell off. They just I guess the whatchamacallit, but it's perfect because I used a key ring that has this little friggin' ladybug on the end, and it happens to be my pot pocket. Pot pocket. See? Oh, I'm just get somewhere. I bolted it down tight, but yeah, it's gonna be hard to get into that. So, anyways, the book that I wanted to show you. Looks like you'd have to unbutton these, right? No, you have to unbuckle them. They have a snap. What? So they buckle or snap. It's dope, dude. This backpack is so dope. So, my mom rules, man. Um, your mom might rule, but not like mine. So, at least not for me. Your mom hadn't done shit for me. Sorry to break it to you. Oh, that was a bit loud. That's the Joker laugh that was taking over. I was telling you about. Okay, so fuck. Yeah, that's about as good as it's gonna get, isn't it? That, here, you know what I gotta do? Turn this shit off. Breaker 197. This is smoky coming in hot. For all your spelunking needs, please stop by Dick's. Stop by Dick's to get you all your firm hardware sporting needs. So, what you want to do is, damn it, that's not working at all, is it? No. See if we can turn this sideways so you can see. No, the background, the back of it there. Damn it, boy. What one of these? Nope. So on the softback, to be a paperback version of this with even like a strip that comes around it. This is like a book I carry around with me when I'm traveling and stuff, so I can, just write and draw. Hey man, sometimes you gotta wait for the bus. I like my hat. So, I'm thinking that I might have lost my mind, but I don't know if I ever had one to begin with, so that's what's got me kind of confused. You know what I mean? It's like, did I lose it, or am I just realizing I never had one again? Because I've had this conversation with myself before, so I'm thinking I just never had one. But then some of the stuff I do has some sense behind it. Okay, like this poem here. Tell me what you think about this poem. I like this poem. And feel free to comment below. If Jill has 10 apples and Paul has 0. Here, says Jill, and she hands Paul 4 apples. Question. How many apples did Jill have? Answer. More than enough, unless she's secretly a horse or apple-chomping freak. 6 apples. Does she own an orchard? If so, give Paul all fucking 10. What the fuck? I call that one Jill has 10 apples. I have a drawing, so this one. Notes about stories I'm going to be writing, sketches. Designed by the fall, talks to the ear that never ever truly listens at all. Behold the sound of the fury, the damnable beasts of the burdened. Worry no more lest blue eyes turn sore and water the ground until verdant. Murdered for peddling truth, He'd only say that which he had soothed. Yea, that never seemed to soothe. Better. One's called Torrents of Torment. But yeah, I just walk around writing stuff and write around. Vague reflections of skin. But yeah, I wanted just to look kind of like, how this one has the leather strap that comes around like, fucking block the sun. Jesus Christ. Has like a leather strap, but if you had like a little connector thing that would do the thank you. I was tired of getting my fucking third horse. And then so I could tie up. And then you could also use it as a bookmark also. You know what I mean? It could just be like a ribbon of any kind. It doesn't be like leather. But that way you could wrap it around or, run it through. It'd be kind of cool. I think it'd be kind of cool. And that'd be like the paper student edition. Just got like a cover and a little bit of extra flip over. Like I said, and then I wanted to have like a limited edition version of The Robber and the Thief that is technically the third edition when I finally officially released it. And there's typos and there's all kinds of mess up in there. The points are all there. There's nothing that you wouldn't understand. It just sometimes like from is form. You know what I mean? And just stupid errors, just dumb errors. I was thinking about releasing that in its form because the way it's supposed to be formed is when he goes to the void, he actually takes 2 pieces of earth and wood and puts them down and uses his big ass hammer and smashes down on him. When he hits it so hard, it engraves the robber and the thief on the top, and it punks all the way through the bottom. It just dents through, and then as he lets go, it rises up. The pressure compresses, and then as it starts writing itself as it, it stacks back up on these like wispy thin papers. So what I wanted to do was have kind of a, they make that plastic kind of wood. And so it'd be like that kind of wood, and then it wouldn't necessarily have like a binder, but it would kind of have some kind of like a binder that was covered, and it's supposed to be like black and green is the kind of color he shapes the void to. I wanted to have some kind of weird, very, very weird textured green spine, but that could cover up the springs that would hold, and I wanted to print, check this out, all the pages on translucent paper. Now, my idea is actually, as far as the way it goes, there's a map that would tuck, and so you have the book would be thick, and instead of like 160 pages, it'd be like 320. But in the very back, when you open it up, there's a map that you've seen the map. It's that map, but you close it together. In the corner, it has magnets that connect together, and each page, if I could do it right, as you move the paper towards it, the force of rejection, they're attached to each other, but the force of rejection would cause the page to, as you get closer, to go and pick up, and you can slide it underneath, and when it's folded close, the back is just looks like parchment, you know what I mean? So that way, when the paper lays back down, you can read the paperwork, you can read what's on the page. But if you're just looking at it, you're just looking through all the words all at one time. And if I could get someone to like back up behind it, fuck it, if I won the Powerball, I would print that shit, dude. I'd find some company, somebody would do it. Somebody would have the balls enough to be like, that's gonna be expensive as shit. I'm like, I know. I want 50 printed. And that way, if it does take off and get popular, there's going to be 3 runs of 50. There's the first one before it ever got popular, when it started to pick up, and then like the last one, it's like now that it's known that these 50 are out there, these last 50 are out there. Let the bidding begin. The first one would be like 50 each, because we're trying to get off the ground, and it also pays for the next batch to be made. Because it probably would be about $50 each until they kind of pay themselves off. The next batch, people kind of know about it. That's when you kind of do 150 or so. There's only 50? Yeah, and they're all autographed. Yeah, maybe my autograph would mean something on the other first one, so I probably would autograph those two, and the last batch too. But yeah, 150 limited run, true official. But I think that'd be a bit much. I think just laying it down so you have to pick it up and slide the paper underneath. But what I really do, I really wanted to like use, like I said, some kind of magnet type thing, like even small, tiny ones, and just as you move the paper, just the magnetism of the getting close, just and then just that'd be so cool. The page just like lifts itself up off of like, get away from me. Ah. Oh shit. But yeah, I guess you could probably just slide it in between. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that could be done. I'll figure out something. My brain's always working, but that was just my first attempt at solving the problem of how to make it just pick itself up. It was the first thing that popped in my head. But I'll figure something out. Or maybe I'll just, like I said, just let it be where you have to pick up the page, and then you can just leave it in there as your bookmarker, and then you know which page you left off on. Just keep flipping until you stop seeing letters on top of your. You can actually read the page and like, okay, this is where I left off. Yeah, let's go to the next page. Um, Anyways, hour and 11 minutes. Didn't mean to take up this much time, but it's been fun. I really like talking about India. I really like talking about doing stuff. I always have some ideas to do, and I always have time on my hands, so I'm doing these for just to do them. I don't know. Have a good night. Happy Friday.